Θα ήθελα να καλωσορίσουμε το καθηγητή Bill Kapralos, που μας έρχεται από το Ontario Institute of Technology να μας μιλήσει για serious gaming σε medical applications. Ο Bill είναι Associate Professor στο Πανεπιστήμιο στο Toronto. Έχει πάρει πολλά awards από την IBM, από την Google, από το Research Council του Καναδά και ασχολείται πάνω σε θέματα immersive technologies, serious gaming, multimodal virtual environments, auditory events and 3D spatial awareness. Άρα το καλωσορίζουμε που ήρθε να μας δώσει αυτή την ομιλία και τον ευχαριστούμε.
Ευχαριστώ, Κατερίνα. Σας ευχαριστώ και ευχαριστώ, Κατερίνα, που μου έδωσες το invitation να έρθω εδώ. And I think I'm going to talk in English as of now. I can talk Greek, obviously, but my technical Greek is probably not too good, so I would be doing you a disservice if I gave my presentation in Greek. So ευχαριστώ που ήρθατε. And so as Katerina mentioned, Bill Kapralos, I'm at the University of Ontario Institute of Technology. And I've been there for about 12 years, and it's a fairly new university. It's about 14 or 15 years old. And the nice thing, it is, I guess it's equivalent or similar to what you have here. It is an engineering-focused school, engineering and technology in general, and everything we do is tech-oriented. And I'm actually in the program, my background is computer science and virtual reality, auditory spatial modeling in particular. And over the past 12 years, I've moved into virtual simulation and gaming in particular for education, medical education. So who here plays games? Who doesn't play? Maybe that's what I should ask. Who doesn't play games? I never said video games, I just said games, right? Everyone's played games, and everyone plays games, but video games. So most of you play video games. Who likes video games, and who here has actually made a video game? Okay, some of you. Okay. Well, if you take Katerina's course, then maybe you'll start making video games. So I was quite impressed. I mean, there was some. I'm asking because there was some really good. I just saw a trailer of some of the work that's been done by her students here at Videocast, and it was quite impressive. And I'm actually in a game development program at my university. It's a program dedicated to game development. And of course, it's not all, there's a lot of hard work in creating a game. It's very easy to look at a game and think, oh, that's, basic. But there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of math, there's a lot of physics involved and thinking and what have you. And it was one of the first gaming programs in Canada. The students are really, really motivated about games, and they love games, and it's very clear that they love games. So they do some really cool work. I'm going to show some of the work. I'll talk a little bit about that, and then I'll give you some examples of some of the work that my graduate students have done with respect to gaming for medical education. And I guess I'll just jump into the presentation. So I'll start off by introducing and motivating the topic, talk about playing games. Move into immersive technologies, show some examples of my work, and then I'll end with some things to consider, some open areas, open problems that need to be addressed, and of course, problems creates opportunities for you guys in here, right? You guys are students. You guys are all engineering, I think. So there's actually a lot of opportunities in, I'll say, the gaming world. And gaming, simulation, virtual reality, it's an up-and-coming area. It is already. It's a big field, but it's growing. And in medicine, in medical education, and in health and well-being in general, there's a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of opportunities for students like you that are sitting here, graduating in a year or two, perhaps, and looking for work. So there's good opportunities here. So just a little bit about my university. As I pointed out, it's a relatively new institution. There's about 10,000 students university-wide, and it's about 15 years old. And again, the focus is technology, engineering. It's a nice campus when there's no snow. It's, the summer in Canada is very nice, but The winter is not so nice. I mean, I wish I could come here in the winter. Who's been to Canada? Well, a few, okay. What city? Waterloo? Well, yeah, Waterloo. Vancouver. Oh, nice. Vancouver is like probably the nicest city in Canada. So, you should, if you do visit, you're welcome to come to the university. But of course, go in the summer or in the spring. Avoid the winter. Although you may like the winter if you like snow, or you may think you like snow. Come for 1 year, and then I'll ask you if you want to come a second year. So I don't like the snow, if you can already tell. So before starting off, I'm going to start my talk by basically have you consider two things. This whole thing about the medium affecting the message debate, and Socrates, he complained that learning to write would diminish the memory capacity of his students. So in other words, at the time, going back several thousand years ago, technology, state of the art, was some form of writing utensil, right? So you're writing things down. And at the time, Socrates, he thought that would do harm to his students or limit their memory capacity. And so again, it's this fear of technology. And, I'll use, the present day analogy is gaming. And maybe not so much now, but at least in the past, when I started working in the gaming field and using games for for education, there was this real fear of games, and everyone thought it was nonsense and a waste of time. It's changing. The perception is changing. But, again, there's this fear. One of the first grants I wrote, I talked about, using gaming technology, for training, medical training. And I was told by some senior people, don't use the word game, use the word simulation. And, so I did that. I got the grant, and I was happy. And now, 180 is, no, don't use the word simulation, use the word game. In Canada, anyways, gaming is very popular. The government is putting up a huge emphasis on games, or has put a huge emphasis on games. And there's a lot of reasons, but the primary reason is games equals money, right? It's business, and it's a thriving business in Canada. Canada is the third biggest gaming in terms of market. So it means money, and it creates jobs, and so the government, that's what they want. The other quote I'm going to use is from Marshall McLuhan. He's a Canadian, very famous Canadian a philosopher, educator, means a lot of things. And this is a really good quote. Anyone who makes a distinction between education and entertainment doesn't know the first thing about either one. So in other words, learning, why can't learning be fun? There's no reason why it can't be. We've been taught, and if you look at traditional courses, and I'll speak for Canada, which I know, subjects such as math, students dread math, and I mean, it starts from a very young age because it's not really taught right. I mean, it can be fun, but it's not. It can be so much fun if you start throwing math with computer graphics, for example. Matrices, all of a sudden you can have, planets rotating around the sun, and you can make it interactive and fun. Yet it's not done like that, and there's this fear of, math, just as an example. So why can't it be fun, and why can't you get students to be involved in the learning process and make it interactive and what have you? So this is a really good quote, and keep that in mind as I'm going through the presentation. And of course, as I talk, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in and ask. Okay? So I'll start off by defining, or at least covering, simulation. So who's going to tell me what simulation is? You don't have to be shy. Come on. Anyone? Who plays sports? What kind of sports? Come on, only like a few hands there? Like everyone plays sports. What kind of sports? Anyone do martial arts? Boxing?
He's a boxer.
I don't do boxing. I used to do taekwondo.
Okay, taekwondo. So in taekwondo, you have a competition, right? There's competitions. What do you do before the competition? How do you prepare for the competition?
We greet each other.
Okay.
And then we take our fighting position and start.
No, before, to get ready for the competition.
We used to jog a little, train, speak with our trainer about how we're going to proceed to the fight.
Okay, you hit you had any pads? You hit the kicking pads?
We do so, but not before we go.
Yeah. So the point is, you prepare.
Yes.
Okay? And when you're preparing, you're using simulation. Okay. So if you look at boxing, boxing is a really good example. Here's Mike Tyson. Ultimately, he's going to face an opponent. And to prepare for the opponent, I mean, he could sit there and get in the ring and fight every day 2 months before his fight, but he's not going to do that because that's very, it's going to beat up his body. So what does he do? He hits the punching bag, he hits the small bag, the focus mitts. All of this prepares him for that fight. This is all simulation. So the punching bag, it represents an opponent. So you're simulating an opponent. It's not a very high fidelity model of an opponent because the punching bag doesn't hit back. But nonetheless, it's a model that represents the opponent. So this is, anyone who plays sports has been involved in simulation. So most of you, if not all of you, have, experienced simulation of some sort. Okay? Simulation, it's been used for thousands of years. Military, primarily, it started off, military started using it. They wanted to train their soldiers. Ancient Greek soldiers, Roman soldiers, how did they practice? Well, they wanted to practice, they had their sword. They would take a tree, a tree trunk, and they would strike the tree trunk with their sword. Now the tree trunk, again, it represents an opponent. That opponent, not very high fidelity, or it's a very low, quality representation of an opponent, because the opponent doesn't hit back, or the tree trunk doesn't hit back. But nonetheless, they were able to practice their sword striking techniques. Later on, they took the logs and they would hang them on a tree, and then they introduced motion and what have you. But nonetheless, it goes back thousands of years to ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Medicine, they've been using simulation for hundreds of years. Probably one of the first known attempts at medical simulation was midwifery in the 1500s. And today, any medical doctor has practiced on a mannequin. Again, simulation. Who's been on a plane? Okay, most of you. So the pilot that's flying your plane has practiced. Okay, so again,